Going live. Okay, here we go. Hello, hello. Welcome to Let's Get Social. Happy Friday. Today we are going to be doing a reversible tank top. So I'm excited. Last week we did a reversible bonnet and head wrap, reversible bonnet and head wrap. And so today we're continuing on with the DIY, no pattern necessary, reversible tank top. So thank you all for joining. Again, happy Friday. Hey, Brooklyn. Hi, MST. 4192, welcome. For those that are just joining me for the first time, know that I stream live to both Facebook and YouTube, but I also stream live to TikTok as well. So you'll see me looking at both my cameras and showing things sometimes to one camera and then to the other to make sure that everyone can see. So again, thank you all for joining. I did post on Instagram a list of things that you will need if you want to do this DIY pattern. And so I'm just going to quickly review what those things are. Again, if you are sewing along or you want to use this to be able to sew something after you watch it, then these are the things that you will need. So again, September is a scrap busting month. Hey, Dee, welcome. This is a scrap busting month. So we are doing things that you can literally dig into your bag of scraps and be able to make. And so you will need, most people will need about a yard. But if you are larger size, then you may need up to a yard and a half, excuse me. But you should definitely not need more than that. Because this is reversible, it's essentially we are making two tank tops and joining them into one, which is why you need a little bit more fabric than you would otherwise need if you were just making a single tank top. So you need the yard of fabric. You can do this on the sewing machine or on the serger. I have pulled out my serger because I was thinking about doing it on my sewing machine, but I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it on my serger. It is super quick to do on the serger. The only difference, the only thing that you won't be able to do if you decide to go 100% serger is that if you want to do an understitch around your armholes and your neck, then you will obviously need a sewing machine to be able to do that. And so if you plan to skip that step, which again, if it's going to be like a casual tee, then you may not need to do that step. I will tell you that I've only done this step one time. I made a variation of this tank top, I don't know, a handful of times because I like to wear tank tops a lot when I'm just in the house, when I'm sewing. I like to wear them underneath things, particularly blazers and other things. Sometimes I just like to throw on a tank top. And so I've just made them a lot because I particularly like them. In fact, here is one that I was making and I didn't actually even finish it because I never finished the bottom of it. And so I still do need to finish this one, but guess what? I've probably worn this thing like 5 times and washed it like 5 times, and I still haven't finished the bottom. The great thing about knit that you'll never know, and I've just worn it under things, under a blazer, under another shirt that might have been like low cut where I didn't want it to be. I wanted to be a little bit more conservative. I will throw a tank top like this. So I have about 4 or 5 of these black ones, and then I have some other ones. Again, they are reversible. For me, my motivation in going reversible was not so much that I really cared about being able to turn it inside out. It was about being able to have more coverage. So if I wanted to be able to go without an undergarment, I could be able to do that and not have to worry about, having anything show through. So that was really my motivation in doing something that was, that had a lining, but I thought what better than to make it reversible. So I am making it, what is this doing? I did make it, reversible for that reason. And so it serves 2 purposes. Hey, Kay, welcome. Thank you for joining. And so with that said, so the main thing that you need is just really a yard and a half of fabric. And then again, you could use both your sewing machine or your serger. Either one of those work. The only other thing that you need is you need a template for to draft your pattern, because again, there is no pattern for this. So you need a template to use to be able to draft or cut out your your tank top. And so I suggest that you find your favorite tank top that you like. And you can use that. The other alternative is that you can use a pattern. You can actually find a sleeveless bodice piece, and you can use that in order to be able to draft the tank top. Sleeveless is preferred because it's much more likely to come in like a tank. But if you had just a bodice top that had sleeves, obviously you could, if you are okay with something that is coming closer to the shoulder cap area, you could definitely go with something that has a wider, if you prefer um, a wider, whatever this part is called. If you prefer this to be wider, your shoulder part to be wider, then you could definitely use that instead. But if you have something that is like already a part of like a sleeveless, top or a dress, and you have a bodice piece that's sleeveless, you could totally grab that and use that front and back to be able to draft yours. And so what I did do is I actually used this tank top that I have on now, which is not something that I made. This is a purchased one, but I like the way it fits. And so I thought this would work great in order to be able to use it. So what I did was, and I pulled this one out just so I can show you because I put this one, on today, but you are basically going to take your, and it probably helps if you have something that is larger to press it out so that it is as flat as possible. But you are going to take it and you're going to fold it in half because you do need to make sure that you have two pattern pieces. The front and the back are more than likely going to be a little bit different. And this is where you get into a little bit of preference here. But the back of your tank top usually comes up higher. The front is always a little bit lower. So what I typically do to make sure that I can replicate that is usually your tank top will have seams at the top. And if you see that, you can see your seams, and that will tell you where the top of your tank top is. And this is, again, if you're not using already a pattern piece, like if you're using a bodice piece from a pattern, then you won't have to worry about this. But if you are using another tank top to draft, you're going to find that top part, and you're going to then, once you find the top part of your shoulder seams, you're going to fold it in half. And this, when you fold it in half this way, with the inside or the front closed in the inside, you are going to be then drafting the back piece of your tank top. So then you're going to take a piece of fabric that you may have, and let me just grab a piece of fabric. So here's a piece of fabric that I have. You're going to grab a piece of fabric, you're going to fold it in half. Ouch. You're going to fold a piece of fabric in half, and so this piece is folded in half. Thank you. Hi, Sebs. Welcome. You're going to fold it in half, and then you're going to take your pattern piece and you're going to put the folded piece on the fold. And I'm going to point this down so you can see a little bit. There you go. And let me move my pieces that are already cut out the way. So you're going to fold this in half, and let me put this down too so you can see. I'll move that. Hold on, I'm sorry. Let me move this out the way too. There we go. All right. So you will fold this, you will put your folded piece in half, and then you're going to cut out your back piece. Or not, I'm sorry, you're not going to cut out your back piece. You are going to draw or trace around your back piece. And let me just get my chalk. And I'm not going to actually do it because I'm not going to use this fabric again for this, but you are going to draw around, making sure that you are, again, your fabric is laying as flat as possible because you don't want to draw it over. And you're going to use your chalk or your erasable ink pen or disappearing ink pen, and you're going to just draw around your fabric. Now, before you cut your fabric out, the next thing that you do need to do is you need to draw another line around, and you can actually remove, once you draw your first line around your fabric, you can remove it because you should then have something that looks like the back of your fabric. And so I'm going to just show you on my piece. But before you cut, you actually need to draw another line around. And that is for your seam allowance. And so depending on how much seam allowance that you want, and I'll show you on mine, before I cut it, I actually did like a half, maybe a little bit more than a half. So this was the first line down the bottom was my original line. And then above that, I drew another line in chalk all the way around, as you could see. And that is what I cut out. Now, because I decided the last minute that I'm going to use my serger, this is probably too much seam allowance because I'm not going to be, I don't need that much seam allowance. So if you're using a serger, you know, you probably don't need that much. I probably could have done like 1/4 above, but this amount is good. Like if you were doing, now I'm using a knit, but if you were doing like a woven, and if you are going to be doing understitching, you know, you might need a little bit more because that will make it easier for you to press and understitch and all of those things. But I did a half of an inch of seam allowance. It's probably a little bit more than a half of an inch of seam allowance. So that's what I did. And then you're going to do the same thing when you are, so that would be your back piece. And then you're going to do the same thing for your front piece. Now, when you are doing your front piece, you want to make sure that, again, you're folding it so the front is on the outside, but you also have to account for the fact that, let me just turn this up while I'm talking. You also have to account for the fact that your back is going to show through. So one of the things that I do when I'm cutting this is I kind of tuck it in. So I tuck it into my shirt before I lay it down. So again, I'm making sure that my shoulder seams are at the top, and I tuck in that back part because it's only the back, so that it is aligned with, so that it is not interfering with the front part. And then I do the very same thing. I lay it down on the fold, making sure that it's flat, making sure that, you know, my side seams are all the way out, so I'm not getting, you know, so I'm getting all of the fabric. I'm not going to cut something that's too small, and I'm not going to cut something that's too large. And then you're literally going to do the exact same thing, which is trace all the way around your fabric. And then you're going to remove your kind of your pattern piece, and then you are going to create another line to account for your seam allowance. So whether you did, you know, a half an inch or 1/4 of an inch, you want to draw another line because then that is what you're going to cut. And so that's how you are using your favorite t-shirt to create as a pattern piece. Essentially, that's what you're doing. You're using your favorite tank top, t-shirt as a pattern piece, preferably a sleeveless, because that will be much easier. If you did one with sleeves, just know that it is much more likely to come out further. And so you are, you know, you're going to have a wider shoulder than you would if you just had a tank top, as you know that they're much more narrow. Now, if you are using a pattern piece, seam allowance is already included. So you would basically just use the pattern piece the same way you always use it to cut your fabric. So the other part that you need is, again, because this is reversible, so you've done that one time and you have, you know, one part of your fabric. You have the inside, or you have the front and then the back. And now you need a whole nother front and a back to account for the other side of your fabric. And the easiest way to do that is to basically use the first pieces that you cut as a pattern. So before you start unfolding them, I would then lay this front and this back piece that you just cut. I would lay them on another piece of fabric, whatever you want your lining to be. No, I don't want to do that. Whatever you want your lining to be, you're going to lay this down and you're going to basically treat it like a pattern piece, and you are going to cut out your other piece. You're going to cut another front and you're going to cut another back using these as your template, using your first fabric that you cut as your template. So in this case, I wanted black to be one side. So I cut a front and a back in black because I can never have too many black tees. Because like I said, I like to wear them all the time, every day sometimes. You could, so, and then I have this, as you all know, I made a skirt, a ruching skirt in this. So now I'm making a tank top in this because I think it's a Halloween fabric, but I feel like it's just something about using it as a tank top that I really like. And so this will be one side of my tank top and this black will be the other side of my tank top. So both of these are knit. One is a Ponte knit, so this one is a little bit more stretchier than this one, but both of them have quite a bit of stretch in it. So they're going to work well together. So these are my two fabrics. Those are the initial steps that you would need to take in order to get your pattern pieces or get your fabrics ready. So then the next thing that you are going to do is you are going to take each one of your pattern pieces. And so before I go on any further, let me know if anybody is sewing along. I want to make sure, because we'll go through this so quickly, and I want to make sure that if there is anybody that's sewing along, that I wait for them, that I make sure I check in and see if you have any questions. And of course, if you are watching this after the live sew along, then I will be monitoring the messages that you may leave on this post and answer any questions that you may have. So with that said, while I'm going through the instructions, let me know if you're sewing something this weekend. Let me know what you have going on this weekend, and drop it in the chat. Let me know what you're working on. I'm excited to hear about it. Okay, so next step, we've got our fabric pieces for our reversible tank top. So you should have two fronts and two backs, one in each of your patterns. And like you said, like I said before, many of the ones that I have made, like the sample that I showed you before, are the same on both the front and the back. Like I have several of these black ones that are the same on the front and the back. And I have another one that I was in the process of working on too, which I didn't finish. Because like I said, whenever I have scraps, the first thing I do is see if I have enough to make a tank top. That's how many tank tops that I wear. So I was like, let me just do this on live because I do like making these tank tops. And I made them several different kinds of ways. So we're going to actually do the burrito method just because I was doing the burrito method and I was talking about it when I hopped on Carmen and Shamir's live yesterday and started talking about the burrito method, which I used to create my bubble skirt that I created. I don't know if you can see this. I just did it offline because I was excited about it, but I did it a little bit of a different way. It doesn't have a waistband on it, but I really like it. It's super cute. But I put it together front, inside. I put in the lining again using scraps. Here's my lining. You'll never see it, but it is cute. And I wish I would have had enough fabric to put this on the outside, but I didn't. So this is the lining, this is the fabric, but both sides are completely finished from top to bottom. But anyway, I used the burrito method to do this. And I was like, you know what? I know you can use the burrito method for this as well, because I remember the first time I did the burrito method was with Julian and making a men's shirt. So I'm like, you know what? We're going to do the burrito method because I like it. And it is, I like the way things turn out when you do it. So anyway, we're going to be doing the burrito method. So next thing, we got our pattern pieces. And so what I was saying before I got distracted is that if you are using the same fabric for the front, the lining, let's just call it the lining and the main fabric, then you will have two fronts of the two fronts and two backs of the same fabric. In my case, because I feel like it's easier for demonstration purposes, which is one of the other reasons why I didn't just use all of this fabric for the front and the back, is because I wanted to be able to demonstrate to you. I thought it would be easier to have two different fabrics. And so in this case, we're going to be doing the same thing for the lining fabric and for the front fabrics, which is that we are going to have them right sides facing, and we are going to pin the shoulder seams and sew the shoulder seams together is what we will be doing. So I am going to clip, really, which I don't need to, but I'm going to. I'm clipping both of the shoulders, and I'm going to serge my shoulders right across. And I have to think about this because, like I said, I did put more, I have more seam allowance than I'm going to actually need. So maybe in the end, this might be a little bit bigger unless I cut some of it off with the serger, which could be hard to do because, well, I guess it won't be because I do have it marked. So I'm just going to serge at the shoulder seams. That's all I'm doing at this point, basically connecting the front to the back at the shoulders. And if you are doing your sewing machine, you're going to just sew front to the back at the shoulders. And so that is what I'm doing right now. And I am going to go ahead and cut off that extra seam allowance with my serger. So I put the knife up, just following my lines. So, and that is what I'm going to do. And while I'm doing that, I am just going to, I realized that I did not do a post to remind people, because today has just been one of those days, right? That we're on live today. So let me go find our post so we can remind people that we are on live doing our tank top. And let me just give them the link so they can join us on live, right? And so once you finish your main fabric, you're going to literally do the same thing with your lining fabric. You're going to sew and or serge just front to the back, right sides together, just at the shoulder seam is what you're going to be doing. Paste. And let me say, join us now. And if you know someone who was waiting for this, make sure you share this live with them so they can hop on and join us. And let me do a mention. There we go. All right. So I did that. All right, here we go. So I am serging again, front to back. And get my scissors out. One side. So this has been a really busy and also exciting week. And so if you're on YouTube or Facebook, you will see that I put a link up because my little cousin, who is like a golf prodigy, she's 16 years old. She's been playing golf since she was 3 years old. And some of you who are close to me have heard me talk about her a lot. She is now, she's actually on TV like right now. And I'm sad that I'm not, with her, supporting her, but also not watching her because I already had this live schedule. So I'm doing it. But as soon as I finish, I hope to get on and finish watching her. But she is on the Golf Channel. She is at the, she's playing right now in Pebble Beach at the PGA Championship, sponsored by Pure Insurance. And so she is playing, and she's really, really good. And so I'm excited for her because this is just such a huge opportunity, for her. And so I did put a link in on my Facebook and YouTube that if you have the opportunity and you are looking for some way or someone to support this young woman who happens to also be my cousin, is like phenomenal. She is going places, and she's going to be doing major things. And so, like I said, she's only 16. She'll be hopefully going to college, my thought, based on the way that she plays, on a full golf scholarship. But she's also really smart too. So, but again, if you have cable and you have the Golf Channel or NBC, you'll be able to watch her. She'll be playing all weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, starting at 6 p.m. Well, 6 p.m. Eastern time. And if you're on, the West Coast, and I think, what is it, 3 o'clock there. But yeah, I'm really, really excited for her. But if you are able to and you want to support, definitely, support her. She has a GoFundMe, again, for just supporting her journey. Golf, as you all know, can be really expensive. I'm sure even if you don't play, you probably heard. And so I'm just really excited for her because, she's one of not that many that have one, the skill, but two, the opportunity. So again, really excited for her. I wanted to be able to go to California to be able to see her, but unfortunately, or fortunately, unfortunately, I can't go because I have a conflict and I'm not going to be able to make it back to my conflict in time to be able to see her, but next time. And I know there will be a next time. So you said you just turned it on. Yay! Yes, I'm so excited for her. I'm like so excited. So I am at some point going to make like guess a golf top and skirt for her, but I got to get her measurements and all that. Y'all know I don't be sewing for anybody, but I'm just so excited for her. And so if you can watch, I'll post something just for people, because again, she'll be playing all weekend. And if you want to just put it on and just know that there's somebody that that is my cousin, and just super smart, super like talented, and just she's put in so much hard work. You're talking about somebody who literally is putting in hours and hours every day after school, 6-7 hours on the weekends. Like, that's her life, and she's like so focused, and her father is like so supportive of her. And just it's just awesome just to see her. And so I'm hoping that she continues to have these amazing opportunities, which I'm sure she will, because like I said, she's super talented. Okay, so I'm doing my lining now, putting in, sewing my shoulder seams together, front to back. So her name is, I'm sorry, I didn't even say her name. Her name is Tatiana Smith. I should have said that. I didn't even say her name. Her name is Tatiana Smith. And let me see if I can pull up the let's see, leaderboard. Let me pull up the leaderboard. So she is, if you look for her, so it's part of Pure Insurance Championship. And if you are looking for her on the leaderboard, you will go to First Tee Girls. So there's pros, there's pro amateur, and then there's First Tee Boys, and then First Tee Girls, because she's still in high school. So she's, and let's see. So if you can see, I don't know if you can see this. Can you all see that? I don't know if you can see it. Maybe I'll put a screenshot up so you can see. And then let me show you all so you can see. It looks like it's showing up backwards. I don't know if you're seeing it. But the first person, that's her. That's my cousin right there. She is the first one. And so she's really good. If I'm reading this right, I think what it's saying is that her par is 8 under. I think that's what it means. Don't quote me. I think that's what it means, which is really good. That means she needs 8 less shots than what they give you in order to make it through the golf course. So, which is really good, if I'm reading that correctly. So if I'm not reading that correctly and you're watching this after the fact, just know I just started playing golf because of her and my cousin, her father. So she's my second cousin. He's my cousin as well. So I just started really playing because of them. Um, and so I'm just super excited for her. Like I can barely contain myself. I'm so excited. So I'll put her name in here just so if you can Google her later if you're looking for her, Tatiana Smith, and I'll put it in the. Let me see. I will put this too. And let me drop it over here so you all can see it as well. Where's my comments at? I don't see my comments. How do I make a comment? I'm trying to figure out how to make this comment on TikTok and it's not letting me. You said, when do I find time to do all the things I do? Oh, let me look. I ask myself that all the time. When do I find the time to do all the things? Yeah, it's not easy to find the time. That's my struggle. I fit it in. I get it in when I can fit it in. I fit it in when I can get it in. That used to be my motto when I was working out like every day. And I clearly need to be working out more because I'm busting out of all my clothes. Okay. So let me see. You said, okay, because they're showing the pros right now. I'll check out the leaderboard. Yeah. So I guess I'm not really sure let me see if it says what time. I don't know what time. Tea times. Let me see. Does it say? I'll find out. I will find out and post it when I know. I'll find out. Thank you, Kay. I will definitely find out so that we can all be following along and know when exactly that she's playing. But it says the website says it starts at 6 p.m. So which is 3 o'clock on the West Coast. So who knows? She may not. It may be a little bit before. Hopefully, it will be out. We'll all be done, and then we can all be tuning in and watching. Okay, so you have your front and your back. Should look like this. Let me see. At the shoulder seams. So this is my one side, and here's my other side. Both sewn at the shoulder seams. And then the very next thing that you are going to do, and let me see, D, I saw you say something. This looks like a really big beginner friendly pattern. Yes, it is. It is super. I think it is super beginner friendly, especially because, it's something like a reversible tank. So who would think it would be really easy? But it really is. I think it's really easy. And definitely something that I would encourage a beginner to try for sure. And maybe just start with the tank top at first, and then you can do the reversible. So the first thing you're going to do is you are going to take your tank top. Remember you've sewn front to back at the shoulder seams, and you're going to lay it right side facing up. And I just want to make sure, so one of the things I always like to do is make sure that I'm giving you all the instructions, because sometimes when you make something all the time, you skip steps that you're doing in your head or you might have already done, and then you don't tell other people. So I want to make sure I wrote down some little notes for myself to make sure that I'm telling you all the things so that you don't say, hey, what step is that? Or how did I get here? Especially if you're watching it after the fact and you don't have the ability to throw something into the chat. Okay, so here we go. So you are taking one of your, let's just say your fabric, your front piece, and you're going to lay it down right side facing up. And then you're going to take your lining piece and you're going to lay it on top of it, right side facing down. Again, making sure that you are matching up your front pieces with your front pieces and your back pieces with your back pieces. And so let me just face that down so you can see what I'm doing. So I am literally going to lay it front to front, back to back. And then, so it's going to be looking like this when you have them both. Right sides facing each other. You're going to line up your seams in the middle, and then you're going to pin all around, or clip, whatever you prefer, all around the neckline. And I'm actually going to use pins for this one because I think it might be easier for me to keep lining up those seams. So I like to start with the seams, the shoulder seams first, to make sure that they're lined. And then I'll pin everything in between, especially in my case, because one of my fabrics is a little bit more stretchier than the other. So I want to make sure that I don't overstretch it. And so once I have it all, pinned at the shoulder seams, then I'm literally going to just pin around. And once you have it all the way pinned around the neck, the next step is that you are going to either stitch all the way around the neck, that complete circle, or you're going to serge it, whichever one, all the way around. So we're going to do that. And then this, after you do that step, would be the step in which you would then understitch. If you were going to understitch, that would be the very next step. So let's do first things first. Let's stitch all the way around. Again, we have our right sides facing each other. So just for reference, this is the right side of my lining, right side of my main fabric. And you're looking at the back of it. Here is the front. Again, you know the front from the back in most cases because the front dips down a little bit lower than the back. But again, the same thing. Here's my main fabric. Here is my lining, right sides facing. And then we are literally going to sew all the way around our neckline. So in my case, I'm serging it. So I am just, and I'm also going to be cutting off a little bit of fabric too, because again, I made my seam allowance, around a ½ inch or so, because initially I was going to sew it with the sewing machine. And then I decided, nah, let me do the serger. So I'm going to be cutting off a little bit of fabric as I'm sewing this. I just realized that I forgot to put my little bucket on here. Again, making sure that your raw edges are lined up also. Okay, so here we go. And I have now again sewed all the way around. And this will be a good time to also you don't have to press it now, but if you were going to understitch, again, this is where your understitch would be going. So you would have seams that would be here, and you could understitch, but you want to make sure that if you are going to understitch, that is where you would lift it up, and you're going to decide one side, whichever is your inside, but you do want to make sure that you do it neatly because this is reversible. So whatever that stitch looks like on this side, if it's all crooked or you use not matching bobbin or something like that, it's going to show through. So you want to make sure that you do it with care so that because anything that you do on this side is going to show through when you wear it on that reverse side. So I'm just going to explain it really quick just in case it's something that you choose to do. I didn't do it because I'm serging, and you don't necessarily have to do it, but you are literally going to take, like, for example, your seam allowance. If I was going to sew it, it would be on this black side. You're going to take your seam allowance and you are going to then press it down onto your lining piece. And then you are going to then just do a stitch all the way around that neckline. Again, stitching that seam allowance down to your lining piece. And then when you turn it on the other side, you will then have a stitch that goes all the way around your lining piece. So when you do wear it on that side, you will see that stitch. So once you do that, you're then going to turn it right side facing out. So you should not be seeing your serge or your seam allowance or anything like that. It should look like this, which is your finished edges, is what you should see at the neckline. So the next thing that we're going to do, and I'm going to slow down just a little bit. If anybody is sewing with me, I know some people laugh when they say, "Oh, I'm going to slow down," because I know I am a slow sewist. But I want to make sure that if there is anybody that's sewing along, that we don't leave them behind, particularly if they are making a decision to understitch, because I want you to take your time doing that as well. And you can still do it if you serge too. Again, it's an optional step. And I would say if you're doing a tank that you want to wear under a suit or something like that, then I would definitely suggest that you understitch. But and particularly if you're going to use two different fabrics, it probably is a good idea to understitch, because then you don't have your fabrics showing through. Like, for example, when I wear it on this side, I'm not going to probably have a problem. But when I wear it on the black side, I'm probably going to have to do some little nice pressing to make sure that this white does not kind of show through more. So understitching is not a bad thing. I'm not doing it for this one because, again, I make these shirts all the time, but it is something that I would probably do if I'm going to use two different fabrics, because I don't want, when I wear it on the black side, I don't necessarily want you to know that there's a white side underneath. And so, it does help it to each fabric to stay on its own side, as many of you know if you've done understitching before. So little information about understitching. Okay, let me see. So the next thing that we are going to do is we are now going to go to the burrito method, which is how we're going to sew up our armholes, which is the next thing that we're going to put together. So you have your fabrics right sides facing out. So again, the serged edges are sandwiched in between your lining and your main fabric. So, because after we serge them together, and I'm just going to point this down to the ground a little bit, or down to my workspace so you could see. What you're looking at now is our garment, and you're looking at it with the right sides facing out. So the right side of the lining, or if you have yours face the other way, the right side of the fabric facing out. It doesn't really matter which one, long as it is right sides facing out on both sides. And then what you're going to do is you are literally going to roll. You're going to roll your fabric up like the burrito. Going to roll it from top to bottom. Roll it, roll it, roll it, roll it, roll it, roll it, roll it until you get all the way to the other side. And mine is off of my little workspace a little bit. And once you get it, and I'm going to fold it this way just so you can see, I think, a little bit better. Once you get it almost over, then you're going to take your one piece of your garment, or in this case, I'm taking my lining, and you're going to take your fabric piece of your garment and you are going to pin them together, making sure that you keep in the middle that little roll. You want to make sure that you do not, that you don't mess up that you don't sew that roll. So I'm literally taking one piece. So again, let me just show you this again so that everyone is aware. I'm going to fold it back and just show you one side that's on the camera. Let me just do that. So now you can see. So I've rolled it up. I've rolled the whole thing. The whole entire shirt is rolled up. And then I've gotten to the very end, and now I have my lining piece. And then I'm going to take it, my other piece, my main fabric piece, and I'm going to put it on the other side, and I'm going to pin it. And where's my pins? And you're going to do that literally the whole way. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm sorry. We're only doing the armhole. Scratch that. We're only doing the armhole. So you're not going to pin the side. You're only going to pin the armhole. So don't do the whole thing. Just do your armhole. We're going to do the sides later. So don't do the sides. Just pin the armholes. And okay, I just want to make sure there's no questions, no. And you just, again, want to make sure that you really have that tucked in there. And let me just make sure, because I wrote these instructions down. Yes, okay. So just the arm. So you want to make sure that you are pinning it in a way, and this is going to be a little tricky for me because I got to make sure that when I'm serging this, that you don't want to get any of this part that you've rolled. You do not want to get that. You don't want to sew it. You don't want to accidentally stitch it, because then you have to use your seam ripper and get it out. You also want to make sure that your seams are lined up. And again, for the record, we are only doing the armhole. So once I have this pinned, I will show you what that looks like so that you are aware. And Kay, so as soon as we wrap up our sew along, I'll send you if I figure out what time, I'll just post it and I'll tag you if I figure out the actual time. And I'll text my cousin too, her father, who's there with her, see if he has an update on the actual time. No, thank you. Thank you for watching. Look, I appreciate it. The fact that you're even going to watch. Okay. So I have pinned it, and let me just show you. So you can't really tell because the fabric is kind of, it's not well defined at this point, but literally what you see here is you see just the curve part. So it's when you after you finish rolling it, you are literally going to be pulling the main fabric piece around, and you're going to be pinning it right side to the other right side of the lining piece. And so this is the curved part, which is the armhole. And you want to make sure that you really have your rolled part tucked in there, because when you sew, you don't want to sew that rolled piece in. You don't want it to be sewn in. So I'm just going to literally serge right around this little part here, and then we'll move on to the next step, which is going to be closing the other armhole using the burrito method again. So I'm going to be really careful. So once you have your burrito method in, you are literally going to be sewing or serging this together. And in my case, I'm serging it. So and I'm being very careful not to get my little burrito caught up in my serger, because that would not be good. And I don't have an extra piece of fabric prepared, so I would have to cut out a whole nother piece if I cut into it with my all right, a little bit more, and okay, there we go. So we finished one side, and the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to flip it right side out, and we're going to be doing the same thing to the other side. Here we go. And so what you're seeing right now is, and let me move this out the way so you can see, is one of my armholes is completely finished. You can see that. So here's what it looks like on the inside. Hey, Anthony. So my son came over earlier today. He just hopped on. He always shows me some support. He came over today and helped me put up another cabinet so I could finish getting the rest of this stuff in my sewing space off of the floor, out of those bins. So y'all know I did a lot of work before, and I had some more work. I was trying to resist putting another bin up, another cabinet, but I needed to. All right, so now we have one side, one armhole finished. We're going to take that side with the armhole finished, put it closest to us, and we're going to do the burrito method again. And this time we are going to roll that second side up. And again, I'm going to show you. Let me put this down so you can see. So I'm going to show you on one end. So we'll lay out. Again, you're going to lay it all the way out. And all we're doing at this point is the armholes. So I'm going to lay it out. And you are going to start rolling, 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 rolling. Same thing here. Roll, roll, roll. And let me move this out of the way over here. We need that part to be that way. And I'll lay this straight out. And we're going to roll, 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 roll. And when we get close, you know, this is really rolled. Then you're going to take, this is the part where you create your burrito. You're going to take your lining piece. You're going to flip that up. And you're going to take your main fabric piece and you're going to flip it to the other side. So you're basically sandwiching, creating a sandwich with that burrito in the middle. And so then they should be right sides facing. So your fabric piece on one side, your fabric piece on one side, your lining piece on the other, your burrito in the middle. And then you are going to line up those armholes. Again, we're only doing the armholes right now. And you're going to start pinning or clipping, whatever you prefer. Again, making sure that you are pushing in the middle that burrito because you do not want it to get in the way when you start to sew or serge, whichever you're doing. So you want to make sure, like in my case, I'm just pushing it down as I am, you know, pinning. And I like this way, even though the last couple ones I didn't do it this way. I did another way, but as I'm doing this, I'm remembering that I do like this way because it's just, everything is so neat and finished. The only thing that I said, like I said before, the only thing I would add is, like, if I was trying to do something that I really wasn't wearing underneath, I would probably go ahead and understitch or do a top stitch. Especially if I was using two different fabrics like I am right now. But again, because I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it today, but that's the only thing that I would do differently. Just because it'll give you a nice cleaner look. But I plan to press it and, oh, okay, it said, I just got a notification that said round 1 is in progress. So I guess it must have been that the pro rounds must have went over. So I just got a notification, Kay. So you tell me if you see my cousin on the screen. Tell me. Take a picture and send it to me if you see her. Okay, so here we go. I'm just pinning up this last bit. Anthony, if you have cable, oh, you already know. I think you already know. I'll say, make sure you watch Tatiana. If you have the golf, I think it's NBC, the golf channel. I think it's playing on both. All right. So here we go. I'm just going to show you all one more time for the record. This is the other armhole. So all I've done is pinned around this armhole. We're not doing the sides right now. We are just doing the armhole. Oh, that's right. You said you're about to go to the movies. Have fun. Thank you for stopping in and watching. Make sure you watch the rest later, so you can learn how to learn how I made a reversible t-shirt. Okay, so I've pinned it all the way around, and now I am about to Now I'm about to serge, but you could also be sewing this as well along your seam allowance. Again, just really taking extra care to make sure that you do not sew over your burrito, or in my case, serge it, because that could be an irreversible mistake if you have your blade up on your serger. So let me just put this back on me. Same thing here, back on me so you could see me. Okay, so I'm just, again, making sure I have it tucked in there pretty good, but I don't take anything for granted. Again, also making sure that your seams are lined up. Your shoulder seams are lined up. Ooh. Almost had my pen go under my blade. That would not have been great. Okay. All right, so, hey, Monica. Thank you for joining. Welcome. Okay, so the other thing I didn't mention is that I didn't mention this on the other sleeve, but I'm mentioning it here, that this is also the place where you would, if you were going to understitch, you would do it for the armholes, you would be doing it here now. Again, well, you do need to reverse it too. Let me think. Yes, you would do it here. Now, the only thing that would be, you want to be mindful of is that you're probably going to have a hard time getting it all the way around, because obviously you have this whole connected piece here. And so you're not necessarily going to be able to go all the way unless your fabric is really stretchy or you're able to kind of do it. But this would be the place that you would do it to keep that seam allowance. Or in this case, even if you wanted to do it with your serge piece, you could do it here. I'm not doing that step, but you could definitely do it. So I am, again, reversing, pulling this through so that you're able to see that now, oops, the other arm hole is completely finished, or yes, finished. Here we go. So as you can see, we literally have our armholes on both sides completely done. Our neck is done and our armhole is done. And this is what it looks like on one side, and here is what it looks like on the other side. So there we go. So we've done that. That is pretty much the burrito method. So you've done the burrito method. If you try to do this on your own, if you're watching later and you have questions where it may not have been self-explanatory, let me know. I'm more than happy to help. Okay, so now let me see what is going to be our next step. We've done both of our armholes, and now let's see. Now we're going to sew our side seams, and let's see. So now we're literally doing, this is like one of our final steps, which is we're going to do our main to our main piece and our fabric lining pieces to our fabric. Our main fabric to our main fabric, and then our lining pieces to our lining pieces. And let me just make sure. Okay, so the main thing to do, or I guess the easier way to do it, is to make sure that you want your seams to be aligned. Oops, let me make sure I don't miss my thing. There we go. Always get these reminders. No, you said, have I used my new machine yet? No, I have not used my new machine yet. So I'm thinking about pulling out my new machine next Friday. I have not, because I just started cleaning and then that was a whole thing. So I've not pulled out my new machine yet, but I will. I'm actually using my serger. So my new machine is a regular sewing machine. It's not a serger. And so, but I do plan to use it because I did make an appointment to put my machine in my regular sewing machine that I sew with every week in the shop for just regular routine maintenance. So I'm not using it yet, but I will use it when the machine is in for maintenance. I absolutely will be using it then. Thank you so much for all the gifts and everything. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so let me see, make sure I say this right. Let me make sure. Okay, so here we go. So you're gonna take. So let me do it this way because again, I'm such a stickler on making sure that when I'm explaining something that I can do it as clear as possible. So here's your garment. You have it right sides facing out, and now you're gonna open up that garment like this. This is how you're gonna open it up. You're gonna lay it down, and you are literally going to take it right sides together and you're going to pin them right sides together. So one of the easier ways to do it is to hold it this way, where you're basically splitting your garment so that, and this is where it's easier probably to show you because I have two different fabrics, but this is my lining pieces and this is my main fabric. And you can see that I'm going to pin them in the middle first because I want to line up my seams. So I'm going to pin it in the middle first so that my seams are lined up. Like that. So I got my pin in the middle, seams lined up, and then I'm going to pin the front to the back on the side seams. Again, main fabric to main fabric. So let me do that first. And I realized that, so this is something I just realized that happened. When I cut my main fabric, and now it's the same thing, it's going to be true for my lining, I realized I did not put any seam allowance on, I think this is my back piece. So my front is a little bit longer than my back, you could see, because I didn't add the seam allowance. But it's okay because, as you all know, I am cutting most of that off anyway. And so it's not going to make a huge difference. But that is a mistake that I made when I was cutting this. I realized it now that I didn't add the extra to the bottom. And now I'm doing the same thing for the other side. So I already have the one that I pinned in the middle, and I'm literally pinning the front to the back at the sides. And then I am going to literally serge down the side. One straight line, or in your case, if you are sewing, you're going to sew right down the side. And then we're going to repeat the same thing on the other side. So here we go. I have it all pinned, and I'm going to literally serge from one end to the other, one end straight down. And so, as I mentioned before, because I'm serging, I did mine a 1/2 inch seam allowance. It's more than what I need. And so I am serging some of that off as I'm doing it because I don't need all that seam allowance. Ooh, gotta be careful with these pins. I keep forgetting that I'm on my serger, and I keep wanting to, my muscle memory wants to use a button to cut my serger thread, and I'm like, oh, that's right, I'm on my serger. That's my sewing machine. Okay, so now we have done one side, and we are going to now do the other side. But just so you're able to see, and so this isn't perfect because didn't line up as perfectly as I wanted it to, but you could see the side is finished. That is the side. One side, and now I'm gonna do the other side. Same exact thing. Here's the other side. So you are literally going to, hold on, make sure we get this right. Here we go. You're going to match it up in the center. And this is why, so that one I did on the other side didn't quite match up for whatever reason. I guess my pin did not, or maybe I pulled when I put it through the serger. But I like my seams to line up. So it didn't line up on that one. Do a little bit better job on this one so they can line up. And then, so you got this right in the middle. Let me hold this so I can show you before I start pinning. Here we go. So it's right in the middle. Oh, yay! Okay, so Kay just said they just showed Tatiana Smith, who is my cousin. She's playing in the Pure Insurance Championship. It's a PGA Tour Championship in California. And Kay just said they just showed her on the screen. And she's still -8, which is good. That's so good. She's at the top of her list. I'm so excited. I'm wondering why they didn't send me an alert. I can't get distracted. I cannot. Let me see. Let me go back to the leaderboard. And let me go back to her name. Okay. Anyway, I'm trying not to get distracted, but I'm so excited if you couldn't tell. Okay. All right. So here we go. This is the other side of my tank. And I put the pin in the middle, as you can see. So this is where I'm going to next pin all the way across this. And I'm basically pinning front to back, fabric to fabric, lining to lining. And so we're going to do that right now. And then we're going to do exactly the same thing. You're going to serge and or stitch all the way across. And then let me see what's next. What is next? What is next? What is next? Boom, boom, boom. And let me see, is that it? How much is there? Nope. I'm going to stretch this out just a teeny bit because I want to line up. Here we go. So the other thing that I did do is yesterday I had this opportunity to go and see Eve. Where's my book? So she came to the Enoch Pratt Library yesterday, and I got a copy of her book. I heard her speak. She talked about her book, which is, I mean, it was so good. First of all, I absolutely love Eve. She's like one of my favorite people, for so many reasons, not just because of what she represented in her rap career, but just so many things, so many other things. So anyway, she has a book, Eve, Who's That Girl? And I mean, I can't think of a better title because who is she? And this book tells us all about who she is. So if you have an opportunity to, I'm sure she's doing her book tour right now. If she comes to your city, you will absolutely want to hear. Not only was she great in terms of telling her story, she's such a great storyteller, but the interviewer was also really, really good. So it just made it really an all about great interview. And it was packed. In fact, I was in an overflow room because, of course, I didn't get there early enough, but I also was not able to stand out there. I wasn't feeling too great yesterday. And so I was not able to be standing out there from 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It didn't start until 7:30, 8, something like that. So anyway, you absolutely have to, what'd you say, rather than from one end to the other, it doesn't seem to shift that way. Oh, let me see. What were you saying? Wait, are you using your new machine? Oh no, okay. You said rather than from one end to the other, it doesn't seem to shift as much that way. Are you saying, Brooklyn Timmy, are you saying so in and in? Is that what you're saying? So in from the inside to the middle center? Is that what you're saying? Tell me if that's what you're saying. So anyway, while we're waiting for Brooklyn Timmy to kind of give us some more information in the chat, I went to hear Eve on her book tour yesterday. So I would highly recommend it. I have not read the whole book, but they talked about a considerable amount of the book, and I cannot wait to read the book, because I read some while I was there, but I was also trying to listen to everything she was saying and her telling her story. So she's got a lot of, juicy tidbits in there, but also just, she talks about everything, her career, her life after rap. I mean, not her rap career, her acting career, her husband, just all the things, and just such a huge, amazing story about, activism, feminism, business, just motherhood, all the things. So read it. Go to the bookstore if you have the opportunity. If she's coming to your city, you will want to go, because it was good. It was really good. I'm so glad that I had the opportunity. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so a great tip, which I definitely agree with, Brooklyn Timmy dropped in the chat. She said, and I agree, rather than sew from one side to the other, that she starts from the shoulder seam and goes out on each side. And I absolutely agree. And her reason for that is that sometimes when you do that, it can cause it to like shift or move in one direction, or lean or sag or pull in one way. So I 100% agree that instead of going boom right across the top, which I did on the other side, so I'm going to do it on this one, but I would say that I absolutely recommend that the better alternative is to start in the middle, sew out, and then go from the other way and sew out. Because I'm serging, I'm going to go all the way across, but I definitely agree with her recommendation. Thank you, Brooklyn, for that, because I agree. I totally agree. All right, so with that, we are going to do this other part. Again, like I did on the other side, I am shaving off some of the seam allowance because I added too much. I like my tank tops to fit super snug. So this is accounting for that. Me removing some of that seam allowance is accounting for that, the way I like it to fit. And now we have done the other side. And so the next thing we're going to do is we are going to flip this right side out. So you now have your side seams stitched, your neckline and your arms stitched, and you're looking at my lining or one side of my fabric. And here is the other side, which also is completely right side seams done. And you could literally wear it on either side. The last part, which we typically don't do, which is the hemming part. Now, when I hem these together, and there's probably other ways that you can do this, but when I've done it on like my other shirt, where's my other shirt? Oh, I didn't, that's the one, not one I showed you, but when I've done it on my other shirt, typically what I have done is I've folded, I've taken one side of it, I've folded it in, put a basting stitch in it, pressed it, which I'm not going to do online, but this is what I've done. Folded it underneath, pressed it, I'm sorry, first. Put a basting stitch all the way around. Then I take the other side, I fold it in the opposite direction, press it, and put a basting stitch all the way around. And then I take both sides, I pin them. So they're going to be basically wrong sides facing. I pin them at the shoulder seams. I'm sorry, at the side seams. Pin all the folds all the way around. And then I do a top stitch after I pin it all the way around. And that's how I get both sides. I do a narrow top stitch. So like right at the bottom, all the way around. That is how I hem and finish. You have some options of, I mean, there's more than one way that you can finish the tank top, but I'm going to try this on before I hem it. But before I do that, I'm going to try it on so you can see the fit, the look. But before I do that, I do need to cut this because remember I told you that one side had extra fabric and one side didn't because I didn't put any seam allowance. Well, here it is. One side is shorter than the other. So this is one, and then this is the front. So both front pieces are shorter than both back pieces because I didn't add seam. I'm sorry, the opposite. The front pieces are longer than the back. So I need to cut them. So I'm just going to cut them really quickly. And then I'm going to try this on so that you can see this tank top and how it's going to fit. So give me 1 second to cut this and try it on. And I'm using my rotary blade just because it'll be easier to cut a more accurate cut. And my ruler. All right, I'm trying this on and I will be right back. Okay, here we go. So this is the tank top. This is the tank top. It is completely finished. Well, not completely finished. I still have to hem the bottom, but I'm going to do exactly what I told you that I would do. Um, you could also, if you again wanted, you could put a little band at the bottom, or there's so many ways that you could finish it. I like mine a simple one, like I said, folding it under, putting in a basting stitch, folding the other side inside, because again, you're going to fold it right to wrong side. Same thing on the inside, we go the opposite direction. And then I just do a stitch. This, again, though, that top that I had on is a little bit of a crop top. So this one is a cropped, it goes, these are high-waisted pants, so that's why they come up. But it's really that simple. And this is, again, reversible. It's black, as you know, on the one side. And this is a glow-in-the-dark fabric on this side. But I thought it would be super cute. Another super cute tank top. Again, this is completely a scrap buster. Like, I believe that you could do this probably, you definitely could do it with a less than a yard. I use such a small amount of fabric to do this. So I encourage you to do it. Look at your scraps. Like I said, every time I have scrap, the first thing I do is, or not the first thing, when I have time and I'm looking to make a tank top, which again, I've made a lot of these, is I go through my scrap bag and say, what do I have? And I have some in the works, like I said, right now, that I've thrown two pieces together. I've cut it out and I just have to finish sewing it. But the burrito method is definitely what I'm loving about it, because like I said, everything is finished except for the bottom. It's all completely finished. And we took a little bit of time to do it, but you could literally do this probably in 30 minutes. I'm sure. I'm confident. After you cut it out, 30 minutes, reversible tank top. If you decide to do understitching, let's say an hour, because it might take you a little bit more time because you're going to do both armholes in the neck. So with that, I hope to see you all next Friday. I'm going to have a special guest on with me. We are doing a crossbody cell phone case or eyeglass case, but it's probably going to be more like a cell phone case. But either one can fit in it because they're usually around the same size. And so, okay. Kay's got me so excited. So for those that are just joining, my cousin is on TV right now. Her name is Tatiana Smith. She's on the Golf Channel, or you can watch her on NBC. And Kay just gave us an update. She said that Tatiana and two other girls are tied in first place. Their score is -8 and 64. So basically, -8 is like how many shots below par, which is how many shots you get to finish the golf course. And so she's like tied at first place. So I'm like so excited. I cannot wait to watch. I plan to watch. Again, if you have an opportunity, if you have the ability to be able to support, I put her GoFundMe up. I'll put it on my stories too, and I'll put more information because she'll be playing all weekend, today, tomorrow, and she'll be playing on Sunday. Sunday is the final, so hopefully she will be there and in first place still. So it's going to take all of your prayers, all of your positive energy. Please keep sending it her way, because again, you don't see too many young Black girls in golf. She's 16 in high school, and so she's doing her thing. She's putting in the work, and that's why she's playing in this PGA Tour Championship under Pure Insurance. So thank you again for supporting. Thank you. Shout out to CAG, the Mag, Carmen. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for showing all the love. And if you do make a t-shirt, reversible t-shirt, please shop me out. I've seen your bonnets. I've seen your head wraps. Thank you so much. Thank you for those that let me repost it. I love that too. But tag me. Let me see it. I don't have to repost it. So don't be afraid to tag me or share it with me, because I won't repost it unless you want me to. And of course, if you make a reversible tee, please tag me, share it, and I will only repost it if you want me to repost it. But yes, this was super cute, easy to make, definitely a scrap buster. I encourage you to do it, and also support my cousin, Tatiana Smith, and watch her on the Golf Channel all weekend. Look for the details. I will post them. Thank you, Dee. Thank you, Carmen. Thank you, Kay. Thank you, Monica. I appreciate all of you for watching. Thank you, RVBs. Thank you, Brooklyn. Thank you for watching. Brooklyn, Timmy, I appreciate you watching, and thank you for the tips as well. I appreciate all of you who've tuned in, and I will see you all next Friday. Again, I'm going to post more details about how you can sew that as well. Another scrap project. And so stay tuned. I believe we're going to have a pattern for this project, but I will let you know when I talk to my special guest. So see you all next week, and stay tuned. And also look for the October. I put the October schedule up. I will repost it again so you all can see it, because we're going to be sewing Ankara in October. So get ready. I put the patterns out. So stay tuned for that as well. Bye, everyone.